Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the original and best. My name is David Edgar. I'm your host, as usual. And joining me this week is a man I actually joined at the Livingston game. We had the pleasure of company, and we're not that sick of each other that we can't be together, well, virtually anyway, to discuss the 3-1 victory over Livingston. It's Andy McGowan, the sage of Saltcoats himself.
Hello, David. Seems like almost 24 hours since I last seen you.
Yes, almost 24 hours, and probably the happiest 24 hours I've ever spent after a trip to Almondvale or the Spaghetti Hut or whatever it's called this week, because I have an awful record at Livingston as a fan. Just honest to God, I've seen some right howling performances. I remember once there we were 2-0 up under Big Eck and ended up drawing 2 each with about 10 minutes to go. You were probably at that game as well. Snodgrass get 2.
Is that the one Vaterus let it drift in the goal?
Yes, that's the one. And you were like, what just happened there? So it's never a place I've got particularly fond memories of or have much expectancy of, because it's just a horrendous pitch. It's a strangely weird ground to get into. And I know that there were Rangers fans yesterday, Andy, that didn't get in, that they were queuing from about 11:30 and didn't get in until about 12:10. Even on your ticket, it's not particularly clear. And, many people have called me an idiot over the years. I really think I can read a ticket. And I was like, okay, I think I go down here. It's not very well signposted. It's kind of packed into that tiny wee area that, just over the bridge. And, when people are turning up at 11:30, they do, I think, have a right to expect to get in for 12.
Aye, because I was meeting people yesterday for distributing tickets and everything else, and trying to find them or trying to find a kind of signpost or something notable. It's pretty hard because it's just one of these nondescript mechanical grounds. And actually, the only reason I get in no bother is because I clocked it. You actually go by the turnstile number, so you just follow that. But there's no, it doesn't really see East stand, South stand, or whatever. It's not really clear at all. But you were in before me, but so you can't be that bad.
Well, I was fine, but you know me, I was there about 10:15, so, and I desperately needed a pee, so there was no big issue for me. But people were turning up a bit later, and it wasn't great. Now, can we just do the obligatory that fucking pitch at the start? Because that fucking pitch, look, it probably played a bit better yesterday because of the snow, because it was wet and the ball didn't stick as much as it usually does when it's so slow. But the bounce is still a lottery. And there was a few times that players were getting on, or fans were getting on some Rangers fans, and I did it in the second half, which was the other end from where we were, what a terrible cross. And when I watched the game back, I'm like, no, it's bobbled. And it really has. Just as they've went to hit it, it has this really strange wee kind of leap up. And of course, they then end up smashing it off their instep, which probably wasn't the plan. We talk about it every game, but I'm genuinely, every time I go there, Andy, I am shocked at how bad and how poor it is.
And I know. And the problem is the hypocrisy, because you've got like Sir Martindale, who, I quite like him, but he comes out yesterday talking about, the Snowball incident at half time, no reflecting well on Scottish football. Well, if you want to talk about things that don't reflect well on Scottish football, then, look to your feet and what you're standing on, mate, because I think I said to you yesterday, I says, what do you think, not so much Van Bronckhorst, but Mackay, the Ajax guy that's just signed that's in the stand, what do you think? And I know they've got plastic pitches in Holland, before somebody says to me, but they've got them in Holland as well, but the ones I've watched in Holland are a far better quality plastic pitch. So this isn't a rant against plastic pitches per se, it's a rant against the quality of it. It's cheap crap, much the same as Kilmarnock's was. You can get good quality plastic pitches, but for some reason in Scotland we get, something one step up for QPR's carpet for 1985.
Remember that? And it actually looked better, to be fair to it. 35 years ago it did. Whereas, this one looks to me like one of the fibre optic Christmas trees. It's as if they've just squished that down. And it is a bizarre surface and clearly not fun for the players to play on. But Tav, in his pre-match, did say, look, we've played on it enough now. So, No excuses. We can't claim that we don't know what happens when we go there. Doesn't mean it's fun to play on. Doesn't mean it's easy to play on. But they went along yesterday, and manager not making wholesale changes. One change from the side that played on Thursday night, but quite an interesting one, I thought. Scott Arfield coming in to midfield for Stephen Davis. Obviously, Stephen Davis is at the age where he needs managed anyway. We get that. But I think that might have been a change that would have happened anyway, because what it did was we didn't go with the two holders. We went with somebody whose energy I thought was terrific yesterday. Scott, you mentioned to me in the first half that he was box to ball. He really was. And again, that run and finish, that run he makes all day long, and few of our other midfielders do.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because that's why it's a fresh set of eyes, because I think the perceived wisdom would be if Davis drops out, Lundstram comes in as a natural replacement there. But what we saw yesterday, as far as I could tell, was that you saw Kamara play a wee bit deeper and cover the centre halves, and you've seen him with a couple of good interceptions in the box, in our defensive penalty box. And Arfield was given that fairly integral central midfield role. So he's went from, let's be honest, he's been fairly peripheral, but even when he comes into a team, he's usually shunted to a wide left or right position for his defensive capabilities. But yesterday he was brought in, for what he did in the first goal, which is his ability to get from box to box and give us something a wee bit different. So I mentioned a renaissance of Scott Arfield. He kind of faded away, but I think his yellow card didn't help. But no, I welcomed it, because I think, he's out of contract this year. Will he get another contract? That's debatable, but he's super reliable. You know what you get with Scott Arfield, and often use this acid test question. Would you start him tomorrow at Parkhead? As an acid test question when I'm trying to judge the merits of any Rangers player. I'd never have any fears about putting Scott Arfield in any team, any Rangers team at any time.
He goes through these bursts of form, right? Mm-hmm. Scott Arfield, when he's at his best, and they usually last about 2 months, 3 months. And he had one last year around about this time, October, I would say, and he was vital. And if he's just heading into one of them, then it's huge, because he does have things. And there are times with Scott Arfield, he picks up some injuries. We know that. There are times as well where his form isn't as good as it can be. But when he is in those purple patches, then he's a hard guy to dislodge at the team. Beautiful ball from Tav, beautifully tucked away. The yellow card was puzzling to me because he didn't leave the pitch. That's what I didn't get.
I couldn't really tell, but I'll tell you what, the goal is exquisite. And I know we watch Rangers and we get excited and overexcited sometimes about some things, but I watched that again last night, and the wee glimpse he gives to see where the goal is before the ball's anywhere near him. So probably in line with, it leaves Tav's foot. Arfield's made his run. He looks and has a see where the strike is. He knows exactly what he's going to do. I thought it was a fantastic goal, it really was. And if it had been Jermaine Defoe or anybody else, we'd been really, really purring over it. But that's what he can do. And you're right, there's no many of our midfielders can actually pierce their lines like he can with intelligent runs. But fair play to Tav as well. I mean, Tav's been a hot topic this season. I mean, he's a playmaker for right back. And the extra on Friday night, I kind of went, boys out and said, listen, there's no way Patterson should be in before Tav. I said it was nonsense to say it. I stand by that. His numbers are brilliant, but more than that, we kind of take passes like that for granted. It was a fantastic ball through.
It was, and that's, at the end of the game, because obviously we'll come back to it, but that's now him 15 assists in 21 games this season, plus 3 goals. And you're right, it, after a while people glaze over, and he does make mistakes. He was horrible at Hampden, let's be honest. I mean, he was dreadful at Hampden, but he comes back and he delivered there. And then you mentioned we had scored a good goal. Well, my goodness, did we score an absolute peach. Nice move. Ryan Kent tees up Joe Aribo in the edge of the box, and you can see immediately what he wants to do. And my goodness, the execution, he just turns, lifts it, curling away from the goalkeeper with dip, and it's perfect. Just kisses the underside of the bar on the way in. They always look great, I think. We were right behind the goal, Andy and I, yesterday, the goal in the first half. And a bit like the Arfield one, you could see straight away that's in. And it was the same with this. As soon as he hit it, you saw the way it was dipping, and, well, clearly not as soon as he hit it. nanosecond later. I thought, oh, the keeper's not getting that. And yep, an absolutely superb goal from Joe Aribo. We know he can do that, and I just want to see more of it.
And first of all, the goal is fantastic technique because it's coming across his body, but it's coming onto the foot he's kicking with, if that makes sense. It's coming from the left onto his left. So to make that connection and to get a swerving dip across the goalie was exquisite. But to go back to what I said earlier about Van Bronckhorst and maybe a fresh set of eyes, we were at, not a name drop, but we were at the Loud Drop dinner, remember, David? And Jim White asked the Loud Drop, who's the Rangers player that he feels, basically who was the best Rangers player? And immediately he said Joe Aribo. And that yesterday and on Thursday night against Sparta, because it's notable that Van Bronckhorst had Aribo effectively as the central number 10, with Hadji and Kent either side of him. I think he sees what Loud Drop sees and maybe what we don't see, because I think, again, there's an element of familiarity. Doesn't breed contempt, but I think you start to take things for granted. If you're watching Rangers as an opposition scout, I think you're going to be writing down Aribo all over your notepad, because this season at least he has been a constant source of danger. Plus he's been a driving force, which you couldn't always say. He kind of followed others in previous seasons, but certainly last season and this, he's been one of the main thrusts attacking wise for us. And we say he needs to do more of that. He does, because he could be doing it much more often. And he was unlucky later on with a fantastic drive on the other end.
Yeah, he was a magnificent save from Strychet. I think you've touched on something there that I love Joe Aribo, have done since he arrived. Love watching him, but I know a but in this instance, I probably do judge him harder than I would other players, because I think he's better. I think he has more ability, and in any game he'll do 2 or 3 things where you go, that is just absolutely magnificent. Any game that you watch Joe Aribo, that will happen. But it is about numbers and goals and assists, and I think he should be setting records, just in terms of ability, physical gifts, because he's got this amazing build and those big long legs, and he comes away with the ball so often, and he should be, for me, a 15-goal a season midfielder.
He's, we're talking about sellable assets and returning to player trade and all that kind of stuff. He's the one for me, even above Kent, that I think we should be, if we're wanting to cash in some chips, he's the one that's the biggest chip of lot. I think he is. And it sounds ridiculous, right? Because you always hark back, make comparisons, but he should be our Gaza just now. And I'm not saying he's as good as Gaza, right, before folk take out a consensus, but in the context of our football team, the guy that we should be looking to make that bit of brilliance, the defence splitting pass, or the goal out of nothing when it's nothing each and you're running into the last 10, 15 minutes, it's Aribo you would be looking to do that, because he's got the most ability in that team by country mile. But he's added things to his game. He's winning the ball back much, much better than he did when he first came to Rangers. He's physically stronger. He's more robust. Can win balls in the air. He's a threat at corners. He's becoming an all-round midfielder. And I've often said, time and again, and folk that listen to this will say, right, you've said that 10 times already, Andy, if he adds the steel and mentality that saw Gerrard kind of progress for a youngster, a raw youngster, to fulfil his potential, then he can do anything he wants in the game, and he just needs to do it more. And I know that's easy to say, do it more, but he's so capable of it. And I'm the same as you, Davey. I expect it. I keep thinking you should be one of the standout players in the country, and English clubs and further fields should be looking and saying, this is some player and we need to buy him.
Yeah, that's it. I don't get as frustrated at players who can't do it, and I think we would. I think, people would agree that it's decision making. It's that one extra touch sometimes, and if he learns to release it right more often than not. And look, there's no player alive or who's ever existed who always made the right decision, but just a wee bit more often, then he would be pretty much unplayable. But I'm a great believer Rangers are rubbish at 12 o'clock kickoffs, and I think, especially after the big effort on Thursday night, it would have been understandable, but it was a brilliant start, playing some great stuff, knocking it about, looking dangerous, stretching Livingston in the middle of the part, as you say. Glenn Kamara was knocking it about side to side. They were getting stretched, and then boom, one long ball over the top. Connor Goldson doesn't deal with it. Alan McGregor makes the save, but there was Anderson to tap in ahead of Calvin Bassey. And look, it's because we've been in a bad run defensively pretty much all season. You just immediately feel it yourself, and then you notice the crowd are feeling it as well as, and it is that this shit again feeling. It's so frustrating. And then Rangers, I thought we lost our way for about 10 minutes. A wonder save, there's no other word for it, from Alan McGregor, or bizarrely after a game that we'd utterly dominated for most parts of it, we could have been going in at half-time 2 each.
Mm-hmm. And if you lose that first, the goal that we lost yesterday, and it's in the context of last season where we were super stingy and, we were hardly given a chance away, you can kind of shrug your shoulder and say, well, these things happen. But because we've had this run that we've had where we've lost the first goal for so often, we had the nightmare at Hampden, the goals we've been losing, we've really softened it, and the much kind of wanted stats of shots versus goals that we've had in the last 2 months, you can't really dismiss it. Now, when I watched that game last night, I thought actually it's a better pass than, it's borderline whether it's a mistake for Goldson as opposed to a brilliant pass. I thought it was a superb pass in the end up. He should have probably done better because he got caught under it. But it's not like him. He doesn't usually get caught out with the balls like that, Goldson, in his defence. And I thought on another day, McGregor makes the recovery save as well. So, you're inches away for that not being the disaster it was. However, you're totally correct. That second save for McGregor was equally as miraculous as the one he had on Thursday with the toe. And it should have been a goal. 100% should have been a goal. And I thought Goldson was really at fault for that. I thought he was more at fault for that than he was the one that actually scored for. And if that had went in, I think the knives would have been out for the Goldson, because me and you commented on it that whatever it is, the patience isn't there for Connor Goldson, which I think it's unfair, right? We can talk about what he said after the semi. I think we've already talked about it, but between the misconception of a player that doesn't sign a contract, the comments he's made, and some fans think you're not giving your all, I think they were ready to turn on him yesterday, which I don't particularly like, and I think it's probably unfair because, Davey, I think Connor Goldson's our best defender, and it's no coincidence that Bassey has played well for 2 games in a row because he's next to him. And if you had Balogun next to Bassey, it's totally different. So I think Goldson, you said yourself last year, he's our talker. It's clear that when we're very good at holding the line and offsides and stuff like that, that's Goldson. And if he signed on a contract, I'd be delighted. It's just a matter of money. He's a higher earner as it is, and we're not going to stretch any further. That's football. That's the way it is. And I think last week was just an unfortunate spur of the moment comments that he made, which were ill-advised, and I don't think they helped him. But the fans need to, they need to be real about this. We're not going to drop him. Nobody else to come in, and he's still integral to the way we play. And until he goes, that's the case.
Some of his passing yesterday was driving people to distraction, simple passes, but then he would step forward and hit a couple of 60-yarders that put people in. So, you're right, there's still that ability. This is what I meant last week when I said, when people were discussing what he said, believe it or not, I didn't really pay much attention to what he said so much as the fact that he'd said it and what the outcome of it would be. And that was my point, that it wasn't about was he right or wrong. That you can debate that to the cows come home. It's a matter of personal preference. It was about, does this make life easier for him or does it make life harder for him? And straight away, I went, no, it makes it harder, because the next time he makes an error, folk are going to be all over him. And you saw it yesterday. You said to me, during the game, a couple of those passes, and you felt it coming up. And he would have been advised, I think, this week to try and walk it back. That's what I would have done. If it, I would have said to him, just go out and clarify it, say it was spur of the moment, whatever. And for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't suggested to him, maybe he decided not to do it. I don't know. That's just speculation. But it's gone now, and unfortunately, it's registered with the support that's been the case. It's registered that he said that, and that's it. That's kind of the end of the story. I don't think this is the last time we'll talk about this. I think the next time he makes an error, it'll happen again. And, probably the only way back is if he signs a new deal and fans will go, right, cool, no problem. Or he discovers his top form. That's really probably the only way I think it's going to do. And there are players fans will give tons of leeway to, and there are players that, for whatever reason, fans won't give leeway to, and he's in, I think, category 2 right now for whatever reason. And it's a shame because he was my player of the year last year. I thought he was absolutely magnificent for Rangers. I said in the summer the rock at 55 was built on, but we are where we are as we sit here, just going into December 2021. This is the current situation. Into the second half, and eventually, because there was a delay to the start of the second half, as there was some snowballs on the pitch. Some of the Rangers fans in the end opposite to us did a wee bit of a snowball fight. And then I think a few were thrown at the goalkeeper when he came on. And I don't quite understand why it took so long to clear them off the park. I don't quite understand why it was a 10-minute job. And I know David Martindale, who, as you mentioned earlier, I like as well. I think he's great. But he said afterwards, this is what people will be talking about. It's not a good look for the game. It's some kids throwing snowballs. And look, I'm a miserable old bugger. You're a miserable old bugger. And we were like, right, fair enough. Just get it. It's not, do you know what I mean? This was not thugs rampaging around the streets of Livingston causing carnage. It was some snowballs.
I know. And the thing, the problem isn't the snowballs, because the mounds of snow around the park, and if you've been to Livingston, you can lean over and touch the ground there, right? That's where the walkway is. It's right at the front of the stands. So it was the fact that one guy kind of trundled out with a snow shovel, he's selling, and I think somebody else came, and they slowly but surely managed to get these horrendous 1 centimetre snowballs off the pitch, and it was kind of laughable. And I'll tell you what was more laughable, given what's happened in Scottish football over the last couple of months, and Remembrance Sunday and stuff like that, and that was annoying because it was premeditated, designed to cause upset, whereas this was, as you say, spur of the moment malarkey, right? And we are we are.
We're the two old guys for
the Muppets.
For the Muppets, aye. I mean, so we're not exactly best disposed to people having fun. That's we're very Calvinist in that regard.
And even we were like kind of so back kind of style. So I kind of get worked up about it, and I was quite surprised that Martindale getting worked up. And he get worked up at the game because he shouted his players back over, and he made them do the warm up, and the Rangers fans were taking a piss out of them because we were just kicking the ball about like that Sunday league team would do, and he had them all doing drills and stuff like that. So a total storm in a teacup, and I'm not condoning it, When Stryjek could have been knocked out by a rogue snowball, I'm sure.
At our end, and it wasn't throwing at a player or anything, but at our end, I have to give a bit of praise. And I don't know who did it, and it's a shame, but he threw the most perfectly round snowball I have ever seen in my life. He had obviously spent time crafting this thing. There wasn't a lump or a bump on it, folks, right? This was it was like a fucking tennis ball, this thing, right? And the job he'd done of it, to the point I was like, look at that snowball there. It was just spectacular snowball craftsmanship.
You were unusually impressed by that, and I did say this is, you're really impressed with the snowball, Davey.
No, it was perfectly round, right? I mean, it was you've got to admire craftsmanship where you see it, Andy. That's a snowball artisan that we witnessed in action there. But yes, anyway, back to the game, and look, second half again, it's always nervy at 2-1. We know that. Watch the game back. Rangers are in total command of it, total control. Forcing saves from Stryjek. It's about, though, the manager said afterwards, it's about, we let them stay in the game, which you do at 2-1. Then we get the third, it was done. The wonderful fashion Sakala comes off the bench, smiling, of course, because he hears a fan singing his song, which he's said at the press conference ahead of Hibs today that he loves singing. When he's on his own, he can't stop singing it. And he pops up. Hell of a leap. Great ball in from Tav. Stryjek, I think, should do a lot better, but even so, hell of a leap from Sakala, he gets there, nods it in for 3-1. He's beginning. He just play with a confidence. He had another effort as well, and I just think that he's a guy who right now is going onto a field for us, for Zambia, thinking he's going to score goals.
Oh, totally. And I was sitting here today trying to Google some factoids for the listeners. Apparently he's for Zambia.
I've heard this, yes. There were rumours of it circulating in the stands yesterday, but he's such a lovely character. He's just such a... Someone described him on Twitter as having a kind and gentle soul, and it shines out of him. He's just one of these people that you just want good things to happen to. And honest to God, folks, see the delight when that goal went in. Yeah, it was 3-1, right? Great, game over. We figured that, so there's that. But people were genuinely pleased that he got it.
He's got an innocence about him, and in the world of football, I think... So we're talking about Gerrard, and there's a lot of people felt personally hurt that he said 1 week that he loved Rangers and he was going to stay, and then he left, right? And I was kind of like, how naive are you, right? But that's me. And I think in the world of football, real authenticity is few and far between. And I mean real authenticity. And real humility as well. I don't think you get a lot of that in football. And he's got that, and it's pouring out him. Because that is what you get when you're talking to him, or when you hear him interviewed. I mean, that interview after the Motherwell game was just, it made your heart glow, because he was just a guy that was so thankful for where he's at and all. But exactly, but I think there's more to him than that. I don't think we want to kind of caricature him as some kind of happy, cheery, never sees the bad side. There's a steel there, and there's a steel there that's got him to where he is.
Yeah, you don't get to where he's got to from where he's come from without having that determination. And his work ethic's tremendous. That's apparent. His attitude's first class in everything that he does. And he's got talent. It's a pretty good combo.
Yeah. Desire. I had a pal that was a professional football player, and he always says, it's all about desire. If the desire's not there, you have nothing. And he's got that in spades. But I think what's happening now at Rangers is he's getting to know the way we play. So he's getting to know the way we played under Gerrard. I think the coaching staff we've got now will get the best out of him as well because of that. I mean, he was in Belgium, not unlike Dutch football, not unlike Scottish football. And he's got the attributes that can see you succeed in Scottish football. He's got pace, he's got strength. He's, that leap yesterday. Nike or Sakala. What the heck? Some leap yesterday.
That's a couple of headed goals already. 3, I think, now. So an area of his game that we didn't know. He reminds me a wee bit of Stephen Naismith in that he's a weird guy, and you think, right, probably not going to be that good in there. But guys like that have to learn to time their jump. If you're 6'4", age 15, you win everything in the air, playing at school. So you don't really need to learn that so much. Whereas if you're a weird guy, you do. And he's got that timing and also that ability to hang. Just to stay up there a wee split second later than everybody else. A terrific header, and it put us in easy street. The game was won, as I say. I'll always take anyone at Livingston. Celtic have got 1 point from 2 matches with them this season. They can be a pain in the butt, especially at their own ground. So really happy with that. And look, if you'd said to me walking out of Hampden last week when I was disconsolate, as we all were, new manager starting tomorrow. This week you'll qualify on Thursday night and make Leon a friendly, right? Really. And you'll also go there and win at Livingston quite comfortably in the end up. I think we would all have been very, very happy people.
No question. But there's more to it than that, David. There's signs there that are more than a new manager bounce. And we spoke about it yesterday. Morelos isn't back to top form, but there's signs there that he's doing things that we want him to do, like run into the channels, have shots at goal, playing far further up. I think I said on the Friday Extra, I thought Hadji, they played him a different way against Sparta Prague, where we used his guile and his intelligence, which is his attributes, finding space for himself. And I thought we did that yesterday. I thought the first 20 minutes he's hit and miss in terms of what comes off for him, but I thought he was a constant participant in all that was good for our play that first half. And that's not by coincidence. That's because whether Kent being wider, stretching their defence a wee bit more, affording him more space to come from outside to in, or find that pocket that is his thing. Plus, he's been selected for the first 2 games, So Hadji was a guy that we were often saying, is he a starter? And there's Van Bronckhorst, obviously sees something in him and thinks that he's a worthy contributor and he deserves a start. So that should help his confidence and his belief in himself, because much like we're saying Aribo, when he first came at Rangers, had that same journey where he came in kind of raw, loads of ability. Hadji's the same. He's kind of raw. His decision making at times pretty askew, but he can come up with brilliant bits of individuality and spark and offer something different. So there's things happening in the team. And then, we spoke about Kamara. That's a different way. We played Kamara yesterday. It was central, very central, as opposed to, he's usually playing at either side of Davis or Lundstrom. I think that's his best position. And I noticed, I'm not going to take the credit this for my tactical genius, but I noticed reading up somewhere that there was a thing where defensively he would drop into the centre halves, which is classic defensive midfielder. A classic defensive midfielder thing is to become a third centre half when you're out of possession or you're defending. And he done that yesterday. Had a couple of great interceptions in our own 6-yard box. So there's things there happened in the space of a week that are notable and promising. And I think it's far too early to say, right? But I think, or I hope, the one criticism I had about Gerrard and Beale was we changed it, but it was imperceptible. So Beale always get defensive when he spoke about 4-3-3 being that and nothing else. And he would say, but we do this and we move the number 10s. And he would say there's things happening within the 4-3-3. But I think we're going to be a more adaptable team during games. And you'll see bigger changes in the formation and the way we play during games. I think that's a great attribute to have as a team, because it can win you games. It can change the course of seasons sometimes. So maybe we've got a wee bit of Dutch tactical intelligence that we maybe didn't have before.
No, I think that's certainly the case. And I think that's something that we've seen on the 2 matches so far. We went at the end, a kind of 4-4-2 with Sakala through the middle, young Nathan Patterson out on the right side of midfield, and I thought he gave us a boost yesterday. I thought it brought energy and quality going forward, and good win. An interesting coda, Andy, something I want to talk to you about, and that is on the bench, and it was noticed certainly by the folk we were there with. Can I just a shout out to the Cumbernauld Card Brain bus? Have I said it right?
I think I was at, yeah. They were sitting in front of us. And
asked for a shout out, so there you go, lads.
Yep.
But yeah, the people round about us, and we were going, Defoe's on the bench, which seemed kind of strange given everything that had been going on. And at the press conference today, the manager said, yep, I'm using him as a player. So it looks as though he's not going to be doing so much coaching. He's going to be a player. It would appear that he's happy with that. And that he wants minutes. He got off the bench, wasn't on long, but got a shot away. But I wonder if it is just a case of saying, now, obviously we can speculate till the cows come home about whether there was something between him and Gerrard, but he was nowhere near the first team all season. And on match days, he was being allowed to go and do English punditry rather than be there on the coaching staff. So there was clearly something. Right, whatever it was, there was clearly something. And I think that first of all, for Giovanni van Bronckhorst to pick him, he wants to use him. I mean, that's clear. He wouldn't have done it for any other purpose. He didn't have to do it yesterday. It wasn't an injury crisis. He chose to do it, and he chose to put him on. And I wonder if it is a case that he's just sat down with him and said, look, I don't really need an attacking coach. I've got Roy Mackay here. However, I want to use you as a forward. And he's went, well, actually, I'd rather be playing.
No, it was notable. And I thought the writing was on the wall as soon as Mackay came in, because it was said that he was going to be specifically coaching the forwards as part of his role. And see, for me, Defoe has got too much to offer. And he's probably too high a wages to be sitting as a quasi-coach learning his trade in the background. And I dare say that it was as you say, Davey, gentleman's agreement, or whatever you want to call it, with Gerrard, that we'll let you transition into coaching, and there might have been a job from there longer term if Gerrard had stayed, and so on and so forth. But can you think of anybody else you want to come off the bench to get your goal in the Rangers squad? I can't. He is the one man that he scores goals, and that's it.
Also, there are games at home, and we did this last year, that famous goal against Livingston, etc.
Mm-hmm.
There were games last year where it was like, Alfie, you take a wee rest here, son.
Yes.
And you do still, I still would have the confidence of, if Jermaine Defoe has shown up well enough in training that he's getting picked, I still have confidence that, would I want to play him away at Parkhead? Probably not. Would I want to play him at home against, a bottom six side on a day that I think we should be winning 3 or 4-0? Yes, I would.
Yep, totally agree. And I like watching him because he's a brilliant. He's a brilliant player, and you always learn something from him. You see him and where age is 39, 40, I don't know, but he's no lost. It wasn't as if he was a pace merchant. It wasn't as if he was Michael Owen zipping away for players. It was his intelligence in and around the box and that half yard in his head that made him the player he was all through his career. He's still got that, as far as I can see. So I think he can be a 10-goal cameo throughout the season. And goals might be important this year. I hope they're no, but goals might be important this year in terms of goal difference. So one thing I would level at the Rangers team this year is that when we have won games, we probably should have won them by far more. And in the last 10, 15 minutes, we've not scored as many goals as we should. And he's the man. He's the man for that, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly I see a role for him, but more importantly, so does the manager. So, like I say, he's not putting him on the bench, and he's certainly not putting him on for a laugh, right? I mean, he's done so. He's impressed them in training enough to do it. And even when he got on yesterday, went on long, still managed to get a shot away at goal and force a save, because that's what he does.
In 2 minutes, that's all he had on the park. That's all he had. He still got a shot away.
And that's, I totally agree with you, especially bringing him on when teams are tiring. The last thing you want to see is him, because you know that he's going to be moving constantly. You're tired, your concentration level's down. And especially in a game where, maybe it's one thing if they've got 10 men behind the ball, but if they're trying to get back into a game, and we saw that last season against Aberdeen, against Celtic, where there he was, put away, and that intelligence shines through, and he puts the ball away. So, a good victory, and it sets us up for Wednesday night. Away to Hibs. Hibs ended their league losing streak after 5 games with a victory at the weekend, obviously building the confidence from the week before. And they're going to get into this game confident, Andy, and they have every right to do, because the last time we bumped into them, and yes, no manager, etc., but they battered us, and the game was done inside half an hour.
Yep, and with the 2 weeks kind of decompression, sometimes you look back at games like that and you think, that was a bit of a freak, a bit of a fluke. I don't think it was. I think for the first minute they had a way of playing. They got the breaks in terms of, obviously, everything that they wanted went right for them first time. But they used Boyle extremely well, I thought, and he was a constant thorn on their side even after they scored his goals. And it changed the way we played. We had to watch what we were doing because of his pace and the way they were using him. Now, Easter Road is Easter Road. It's a hard place to go at the best of times, but we've had some really, really top performances over there in the last couple of seasons. So we've got to remember that, because if I'm a Hibs fan and you're not getting the bravado there, you're probably sitting there saying, past us after the park sometimes, and really, I mean, I can think of a couple of occasions we should have gave them a right down and they get away with draws and stuff like that. So there's nothing to stop us going there and putting on a performance, because we've certainly got something to prove. I'd really like to, prove a point to one or two other specific players. I'll not give them the privilege of their names getting mentioned, but I'd like to. I think if we win in any fashion on Wednesday, then it sets down a great marker between now and the Old Firm game, because, Livingston, potential banana skin, aye, but we should come through it. Easter Road's the same. Celtic will be looking to that and saying, right, let's see what you're made of, waiting for us to slip up. If we can come away from there with 3 points, then again, kind of breaks their heart a wee bit. So it'll be a really tough game. I'm interested to see how Van Bronckhorst approaches it. I think he might see the team change again. You'll see Davis come in I'll be interested to see if it goes with the same front three. I said a couple of weeks ago I'd like to see a bit of continuity in the front three, because I think that's where confidence and form is found. We were constantly changing it under Gerrard, whether it was Sakala, Morelos, Hadji was in and out. Kent obviously had injuries. We weren't getting any continuity week on week at all in the front three, or front four rather than the front three. So I think we'll see that probably stay the same. I think you'll see Kent wide, you'll see Hadji play, I think you'll see Morelos through the middle, and you'll see the kind of midfield formation we've had already. So it's interesting because it shakes it up a wee bit. Jack Ross will kind of know exactly what Gerrard was going to do, because that's the fourth season. Teams get to know their style and their foibles, whereas now it's a totally different proposition. So it's an interesting time for us.
Now, the other major event this week will be the AGM, which will be held on Tuesday the 30th. So tomorrow as we record this, and it goes live. Are you expecting anything particularly non-run-of-the-mill, Andy, or will it just be a pretty straightforward AGM?
I don't. I'm not going, and I don't. That in itself tells a story, and that there's nothing in my mind that you're sitting saying I really need to be there to either hear what's said or to represent or to try and speak. I think what happens on the pitch very much so influences what happens at AGMs, and things are fairly even keel just now in terms of supporters' attitudes towards the club, the board, the football. And there's always things you can improve on, and there'll be things brought up like Castor and the deal and a bit of clarity there. But I don't see any icebergs for the board. Let's put it that way. There's a bit of goodwill there. Now, dare I say it, the Dave King thing, there's a strange dynamic there that we've been aware of, and I mentioned it when I was doing the accounts that, I called it a changing of the guard, and Dave King even made comment to just clarify his position in terms of the loans and stuff like that. It's all very strange to me. I don't think that's going to play out at all during the AGM, but I'm hoping that's not the seed of any sort of discontent or noise that we don't need. I don't think it is at this point in time, and I don't think it will be, but there is the potential for that. And the board are pulling in the same direction. That's evident. John Bennett, Douglas Park, they're pulling in the same direction in terms of finances, and there is this kind of, it's a commitment, really. The commitment was made in the notes and the accounts that they're going to try and break even, or expect to break even very, very soon. And I'm just wondering what changes now that we've got a new manager, because you make that commitment on the basis of what you know, what you have, and what you expect to happen. I don't think Gerrard Lever was in that equation at that point. So I just wonder if that changes the financial landscape as they saw it, because they might be thinking, well, no, new manager, there might be assurances there in terms of budget. Who knows? But so that's an interesting thing going forward. I don't think anything at all will play out at the AGM in that regard.
It's interesting that you mentioned about things are affected by what's going on the pitch, obviously, at a football club. But another thing is that it might have come at a good time for maybe Ross Wilson, because obviously the last couple of weeks he's been at the forefront of the manager search. He's got in a new manager that we're all happy with, and he's got off to a good start. Because otherwise, I wonder if there might have been some questions to him, because the last few windows have been disappointing, I think it's fair to say. Now, I know there wasn't an awful lot of money about, but if you look at the players that have come in, Forbes, Wright, Sakala, Simpson, Lundstrom, Bakuna, you're probably looking at Wright and Sakala being players that the fans are like, yeah, okay, can get that. And I wonder, between that and the lack of a big sale, whether or not that might have been put to him. Now, again, I know you can only sell what's in front of you, or the offers that come into you, but it is part of his remit. And as well as that, we do have a lot of players, big players on our side, who'll be coming out of contract in the next 18 months or so. So there are a few questions there, I think, as well as he did do on the manager search.
No, that's totally fair comment. What I would say to that is that, a sporting director is a relatively new concept for us at Rangers. We've had Mark Allen and we've had Ross Wilson. That's it. And we've spoke about it since the mid-90s. You know, this is when the concept of sporting director was kind of coming out in Europe, and an overarching thought process and design of a club, and I always spoke about Ajax and stuff like that. So it's been a long time coming, but what we have got now is we've definitely got a structure, and Ross Wilson often talks about the one club ethos right through for the youths to the women's team to the first team. And I often described Ross Wilson's job when we were kind of getting to know him as succession. In a word, it was succession. And that was an acid test we had there with the manager, because that was worst case scenario. Mid-season, a lot to play for, and your manager says, by the way, I'm off. That could have went badly wrong, and you just need to look across society to see how badly wrong it can go when you go for the wrong option, because it echoes through months and months, seasons and seasons. So I think that the transfer thing, what you say is absolutely true. We by and large, all those players we've mentioned there have been zero outlay. So Simpson was a Bosman. Off a bar, we've not really seen Bakuna, right? Very little outlay at all there. That's good, and that you're going to pick up some wee gems there by and large, but you're going to have players that don't make it just by the nature of the fact that there's a reason that they're Bosmans. I think if we'd sold one player, then that would have been totally different. But I think the problem that Wilson has is, and you mentioned the offers that we received, our first big sale is going to be a marker. It's going to be a marker to say, do you know what? This is Rangers. We're no soft touch and we're not desperate for money. That's where Celtic have got their strength rate on the sales side of stuff. Look at the hardball they played when they sold Kieran Tierney to Arsenal. 24 million, and it was up front. Jesus Christ. You can say what you want about Celtic, but that was absolute proof positive that they have got their player trading model cooking with gas, because they're fairly well versed at it. Now, on the other hand, we have been in a position in the past that we've had to sell players because there was a degree of necessity, and buying clubs smell that. It's no unknown amongst football circles when clubs need money or need funding. It doesn't really, it's common knowledge. So we have got, and as you've seen, all the noises coming out of Rangers and the Giovanni van Bronckhorst press conference. Ross Wilson could have been any more unequivocal. We don't need to sell players. Now, I don't think that's true. I think we need to sell players, but we need to sell them the right way. And what he did there was create the correct optics, which is, if you want to buy your players, you need to pay what they're worth. We won't sell because we need to sell. So there's this contradiction where the club have said we're going to break even. There's an unspoken fact that will be construed that we need to sell to do that. But by the same token, Ross Wilson is saying, but let's strong arm it. We're not just going to sell it for any reason. And that's what happened with Morelos. Morelos, they got a bid for Morelos, they got a bid for Patterson, which was derisory. I think it was a bid for somebody else. None of them fit the bill, because if we'd sold them on the cheap, what does it tell you? Rangers are still a selling club that still needs to sell for necessity as opposed to design. So that's what I take for it.
The only thing I would disagree with you there was when you said you can say what you like about Celtic. I can't. If I did, I'd get arrested. So yeah.
Oh no, that'll be me getting a brain twirl. Oh, Andy, you're bumming up Celtic. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you, that's the way it is.
All abuse to Andy. It was him that said it, folks. Right. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us for our flagship show. And of course, if you like what you hear from Heart and Hand, we have unrivaled coverage of Rangers over on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Heart and Hand. And on there, from just $1.99 per month, you will get up to 30 hours of shows every single week. And we cover all things Rangers, a lot of other football as well, and a few other things to keep you entertained as we're into the hibernation season. I think it's very much fair to say, given how cold it was yesterday. Although we go in, and Andy deserves a bit of credit here, or rather Andy's dad does, because we go in and of course we're at the end where the sun, that winter sun, low winter sun, can't see a bloody thing, and Andy hands me an envelope, and I was, thanks very much. And he's like, no, put it under your hat, because we had woolly hats on, and fold it. And it worked. It was like a proper visor. So as someone said to us, Andy, we should have taken the term inno visors. I was sad we missed that.
Yep. So I've got this new Dragon's Den idea, a hat with a skip. Imagine that. That's
imagine
work,
that. Yeah, a woolly hat with a skip though would be nice. So we'll get onto the guys at the Famous, see if they can come up with that. But thank you to our executive producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Miles. Thank you, of course, to Andy. Wonderful as always, my friend.
Pleasure to be on. Thanks very much for asking me.
And of course, Adam will be back with Heart and Hand Extra later in the week, which will hopefully be a breakdown of a good performance at Hibs and a look ahead to the Dundee game. So until then, folks, have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you again this time next week. Take care. Bye-bye.